do I bother to prepare my hair when I know I will be traversing the River Styx? One day I'll have to tell Chiron to slow down so that my hair isn't ruined. Hello. What's this? Who are you? I didn't think the shades had any agency, but you're a special one, aren't you? Well, welcome to Elysium. I myself am just on a little errand, if you will, but I have some time. It's a nice day here, isn't it? It's always a beautiful day in Elysium. And I do quite like the structure, the shelter that has been constructed since I've been here. It's a little more fitting for the shades, I think. I apologize, I am all askew. See, I didn't see you when I boarded Chiron's boat, but shades do not often notice me. I tend to go on the routes in between, but I fancied myself a little ride. And for that, it has costed me my beauty. You look a little worse for wear as well, don't you? I suppose it is a rather harrowing journey for the shades, isn't it? A little less so for the deities. But I think you could just use a little bit of cleaning up. We could comb your hair a little. River Styx did a number on you as well. We could wash your face a little. Get some of the silt and salty air away. Yes, I think that you would feel much, much more comfortable if you were cleaner. Well, let me just start with just wiping you off. Give me just a moment. There. Now, just hold still for me. Now I know that Elysium has been opened up to some of the best of civilization. Are you one of those heroes that has hymns and stories told about them for years after they've accomplished whatever task they set out to do? Oh, no, not a hero. That explains it. Huh. So, you're one who's been a part of the Elysian mysteries, aren't you? Don't play coy. You knew who I was. So, it only goes to show that you've been part of the rites of myself and my mother. Now, if you could just lift your chin for me. So what do you remember of the initiation? Yes, the mind may be just a little bit foggy from the trip. I see. Well, they're called the mysteries for a reason. Perhaps I should allow you to just remember it on your own. Let me see, right here. Who were you when you were on the mortal plane? Your name, your occupation, your family? I see. And I trust it was a happy life. Good. I think you will find that it will be just that much more comfortable here. I found the creation of Elysium to be a wonderful idea. See, so many of the deities look down upon humanity, but still expect worship from them. Whereas I and my mother were closer to the farmers, to those who worked the land. Okay, in your arm. Yes, we understood the very special nature of civilization. See, when one is immortal, the balance between morality and immorality is skewed, and the stakes are so much less when you don't have a time limit. But humans only have a short while on the earth. And so it makes it that much more special when they are able to work for and sometimes accomplish that which they set out to do. I envy them in that regard. See, immortality it's monotonous. There's very little excitement. It's quiet. There's a reason that Zeus has all of his escapades, if you will, and primarily with humans. He likes the chase. One cannot get the chase, not with real stakes, not with real heart, when we can't exactly die. It's greatly difficult to be harmed. Pain makes life a little more alive, I think. That's why it is such an honor to come to Elysium. One has to go through so many trials in order to be admitted. So all that pain and all those years of waiting is that much more worth it. Yes, I will have to have a talk with Chiron. Look at you. Covered in silt, salt. So much silt and salt. I realize there are many more shades to be ferried than there were in recent years, but still nothing was like was like when my mother was looking for me. But you know that story. You're well aware. Aren't you? You quite know. I suppose it will take a little bit of time for you to remember. Let's finish cleaning you off. Perhaps we will see what I feel like then. It is not so much that it matters anymore, it's just... It's not particularly a long story, but stories are different when you are a part of them. Everyone can be entertained by the story of grand battle, of love found and subsequently lost, but it is much more bittersweet when you are the subject. I dare say that if I were a hero, I would never wish to hear a retelling of my task ever again. The mortals do love to embellish things as well. Good, good. Let's just finish. And your ears as well. My gosh. I wonder if all the shades end up coming to Elysium like this. Covered in dirt. Mud. You get a little into the hairline here, but for the most part, I think we'll have to see what we can comb out of your hair. But you may just need a good old-fashioned bath. Let's see. This is a beautiful comb from a faraway land that you most likely would have never heard of, but some merchants bring these little trinkets along. When I was disguised at one of the festivals to my mother and myself, I picked this little comb up. It's quite a sturdy thing. It's made of a stone called Jade. Beautiful, isn't it? It's almost the color of my eyes. It's the color of vegetation, the color of life. So I paid the merchant his price, and then some. Perhaps it may incentivize him to bring more. And I've kept it ever since. It goes with me wherever I go. One never knows when they need to comb their hair, but I can always do that. We'll just focus on you. Now, the Elysian mysteries, the great rites, discussing my and my mother's journey. I suppose with all stories, it's best to begin at the beginning, is it not? I day, while my mother and I were working on the land, she asked me to paint all the flowers in the world. And it was a little boring. There are so many, many flowers that we've created. But I did as I was told, as I had never disobeyed my mother for anything serious, and, well, there's a reason she asked. So I set upon painting all the flowers, and I got through quite a few of them. And then, all of a sudden, I was gone. Now later I would be told that one of the 3 kings, Hades of the underworld, had fallen in love with me and had decided to take me to the underworld. Now, when my mother had looked for me and then discovered that I was gone, her distress was palpable, could be felt through the entire human world. She looked high and low for me, but I was nowhere on the plane. And how would she know? So, my mother embarked on a journey to look for me through the mortal lands. And she had gotten up to, not necessarily mischief, but she ended up teaching the humans the way of agriculture the way that she did it. I mean, I suppose it was more derivative, but she gave them the basics at least. So on and on she journeyed across the lands, across the seas, and she looked for me. She wept for me. She cried out her anguish. And in her heartbreak, she neglected the land. She spent all her time and energy trying to bring me back home, trying to recover me. And that meant that she had no time left for taking care of the earth. And though she had given the humans agriculture, she neglected to give them the necessary conditions so that they could grow and harvest their crops. So there was a great drought, and all the crops withered, and a famine swept the land. All the humans were affected, and they were perishing in droves. I know Chiron did not appreciate that from Demeter at all. But when one is starving, when one is trying to stay alive, they no longer have as much time or resources to give sacrifices and offerings to their patron deities. So this is where it became the other gods' problems. And finally, Zeus, the king of the gods, had gotten fed up with Demeter not taking care of the land and thus accidentally, and I say that because she didn't mean to, accidentally killing the humans. And he told her that I was in the underworld. And in that, he forced Hades to take me back to my mother. Now, Hades acquiesced, but he was clever about it. And I mean that not because I necessarily appreciated it at the time, but when one consumes food or drink from the underworld, they are forever bound to that plane. And Hades offered me some pomegranate seeds. And I unwittingly ate them. Now, in my defense, I was very, very hungry, and pomegranate seeds are absolutely delicious. Very juicy. But anyway. So Hades had bound me to the underworld and to him. And while I could still visit the mortal plane, where I could still visit my mother, I was forced to come back to the underworld for some time each year. For every pomegranate seed that I consumed meant a month that I had to spend in the underworld. So I came back to the surface with my mother, and she was so happy that she began to take care of the earth once more. And so begun the first spring. You see, before this, before I was tied to the underworld, it was summer all the time. And it was exhausting. Don't tell my mother I said that, but I had been doing summer for a very long time. And perhaps I do not appreciate how it was gone about, but I do like the bit of rest that I get. Now, spring begins, and then there is summer like there once was. But then we approach the time that I have to go back to the underworld. And Demeter grows sad once more. And the leaves start to change color. The air grows drier. And soon the crops begin to die, so the humans can harvest them. And then when I inevitably go back, this is when Demeter is too heartbroken to attend to the land, and winter begins once more. And then I go to the underworld, and I do spend time with Hades. Unfortunately, the way he went about procuring me and making me queen of the underworld was not ideal. not a very good start to the relationship. However, he has been quite repentant about that, and has mentioned that perhaps the way he went about everything was more influenced by his brothers. And I do understand that, because Hades has never been one to make such an impulsive, rash decision. He is the calmest and the most rational of his brothers. So for him to just sweep in and steal me, quite literally steal me as if I were a child. Stupid. Stupid, stupid. You will not have this folly anymore in your life here, but for the love of all that is holy, don't think with your dick. But in any case, it was so very long ago that I have forgiven him, and he is a very kind and stoic presence. I do enjoy his company. He is very intelligent and quite interesting to talk to. He has many different perspectives on life, since he is the god of the dead on the other side of life. He interacts with humans at their very last moments. So some of his experiences are a bit of a perspective change, which is good. It's not beneficial to only live in one perspective for your entire life. It is good to see how other people live, how other people conduct their lives. And it's a balance of different perspectives, different ideas. And I think that in being grounded to the underworld for a good amount of time throughout the year, it has made me so much more grateful for the work I do with my mother, my relationship with my mother, as well as with the humans. It just makes it so much more sweeter of all of it. And the underworld is not a bad place to be either. Then again, I can create life in the underworld, which is something still unseen. So perhaps I have a leg up in that way. But even still, it may be quite cold and quite dark, but the personalities of those that live in the underworld are, well, I wouldn't say they're a breath of fresh air, but they are infinitely more interesting. They have just, how do I even say it? They are just quite multifaceted, I think. As I said before, morality and immorality have a different balance when one is immortal. And those of the underworld oftentimes quite test that particular balance. But then again, one of the biggest tests of the balance is the King of Gods himself. Do not tell him I said that. He's well aware, but we are not allowed to say anything about it. We're not allowed to know. He's allowed to know, but we're not allowed to know. getting to the point where I can run the comb through and we don't have bits of mud coming out, although at this point it's more clumps of dirt. There. I think we're getting to a point where you look quite similar to what you did when you were above ground. I think you will quite enjoy it here. It is a much slower way of life, and I know that some of the shades may grow a little bored of it, but it's much easier than having to toil through disease and starvation and war. War especially. So, I believe it is a fine existence to have all your needs cared for, to not have to worry again. And it's much easier than originally the shades were, well, shades, shadows of themselves. They looked like themselves, but they didn't exactly have the consciousness and agency that they once possessed. So they were there, but they did not really have a mind of their own. And that I've been trying to work on with Hades. I feel that's a cruelty. Why exist if you don't really exist at all? But he's been a little resistant to it. He's quite resistant to change. It took a long, long time before Elysium was a good enough idea for him. Although I did appreciate being able to bring those that participated in the Eleusinian mysteries to Elysium. What was that? I did mention an errand. Well, unfortunately, I cannot tell you the nature of said errand. Very top secret things. But it has become winter again in the mortal world. I don't know exactly when you had passed, but the season has changed and I am back in the underworld, and occasionally I like to come back here, and I love how vibrant it is here. It reminds me a lot of home. It's beautiful, fresh, so many flowers, so much vegetation, so fertile you can smell it on the wind. So sometimes I come here, whether I have an errand or not. Sometimes I come here when the underworld has become a little too stifling, a little too cold, a little too dead. And I sit for a while. After, of course, embarking on my disastrous journey along the River Styx. Damn that Chiron. But still, I like to just sit and watch the mortals. It did take me by surprise because generally they do not see me. But you did. You did see me. And that is why I figured you might be part of the mysteries. Because why else would someone be able to see Persephone if they were not a follower of Persephone and Demeter? Oh, what do you have here? Just this little bit. I have to work on that a little. This little catch. This catch here. No, it will not come loose. Let me see. Let me see. Where is it? Is it taken care of? I think just that tiny little bit here. Okay, we are working through it. This little section here. I think we just got through it. Okay. Just allow me to finger comb your hair a little bit. I want to make sure. I know I got a little carried away with telling you the myth of Persephone and Demeter, the hymn of Demeter. But I want to make sure that I did actually comb your hair through. That'd be quite a story, wouldn't it? I talked to Persephone once I had arrived in Elysium, and she offered to comb my hair, but she completely bungled it. There. Yes, I did. I did a bit. Right back here. Not quite the back, but not quite the side either. Yes, stuck there. See if I can untangle it with my fingers a little. There. Good. Now when I do leave, I would highly recommend bathing. The water is quite satisfyingly warm. Much easier than the freezing cold river or the sea. Missed this whole section, didn't I? Oh, Persephone. I get too distracted. There's a reason that some people, mostly the older ones, still call me Maiden. As generic and sometimes insulting as that is, there are times that I do not begrudge them for it, and this is one of them. There. And right here. There. Finger combing is almost a little easier. Separate the hair. Separate it. Yeah. Now what about here? Right here. I do quite appreciate how patient you've been with me. My mother tends to be a little more impatient. But sometimes I like to just take my time. Sometimes I just allow the chaos to be. part of that I've learned from the underworld. Despite how organized it is, on the surface, it does look quite chaotic. Every person has a place, however, and every place has a person. But there are so many souls to oversee that it looks like pure chaos. There. It is a good thing that you will be washing your hair after this. I will say that. Allow me to just pull that right here, there. Just pull this here. I do wish that I had some dyes. I could just braid the hair and put it up. The Romans in particular do that quite very well. And I think that will do it. Now, since I had shook loose quite a bit of dirt, and I don't know how, but you had quite a few leaves in your hair as well, and I don't recall. You know what? It was probably me. Sometimes my powers, they do things on their own. I haven't had too many unintended manifestations in a while. Nothing major, but flowers, leaves, conjuring where they shouldn't be. That's been known to happen a time or two. And I did tell you about the myth between... Oh, yeah, that's me. The leaves are me. The leaves are me. Just get those out of the way really quick and then be able to just finish cleaning you off. Okay, no, it's just a few. It's just a few. Now, let us cleanse you of the dust and leaf shatter. Good. This would be much easier if I had a brush, but I only carry a bit of cloth and my comb with me. I did not expect that a shade would come up to me. Good. Now just along your neck. Now I've certainly got some. Yes, if you just want to just do one of these. Fluff it out a little. Good. You'll have to make some friends so you can tell them about the time that Lady Persephone had manhandled you and ended up getting a bunch of leaves in your hair. Wouldn't that be an interesting thing if I had never figured that out? I would have kept conjuring leaves and having to clean them up, conjuring leaves, clean them up. I would have gotten so frustrated by the end of it. I don't know that I would have gotten to a point of wrath, but one cannot completely disregard the possibility. Now, do you feel any sort of itching anywhere, perhaps from any of the salt, the dust, the dirt, the leaf shatter, anything of that sort? Okay, just more. Right. I can acquiesce to that. Yeah. And how was that? Wonderful. Now I think that I've spent quite a bit of time with you, and I still have not accomplished my errand. Luckily, all I have is time, but still, I do have things I wish to do. So I will leave you with that, I think. Now, I would recommend that you go get yourself a little bath and enjoy yourself. Enjoy the beautiful eternity in Elysium. We created it just for people like you, and I hope that you are able to enjoy it to its fullest extent. And who knows, I may see you again sometime. Goodbye now. I hope you have a very beautiful and blessed second life. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I create primarily medical, alternative medicine / pseudoscience, and personal attention ASMR roleplays. If you want to check out a specific category of my videos, my channel playlists have everything from sci-fi to historical to even fantasy videos. If you want to support my work, consider checking out my Patreon profile in the description box, where I offer early access to videos, exclusive